So welcome back again, like I said. So in the previous class, this was my explanation, right? Now let's develop the Python code from this. So first and foremost, let me write the array. Compare these two values in each of the loop. So what loop do we need first? So I have for num in range of, where do I start from? Why not start? I can't start from 0 because I said next, isn't it? I did not say first. So that will be 1 towards to the length of array, isn't it? Before I compare, let me put this value in temporary value, then compare temporary value with the previous values. Because temporary value is array 4, isn't it? And it is this value I keep comparing with what? With previous values. So instead of doing that, let me put this value into the temporary value first, isn't it? So I can have temp is equal to what? Array num. So the value has been kept in the temporary value. Is that understood? Then I keep comparing with what? With previous values, isn't it? Then I write y temp is less than what? Array num minus 1. Is this understood, everyone? So y temp is less than array num minus 1. That is, you keep doing it until it is false. And when you get to array 0, are you supposed to go beyond array 0? No. So that means and, so you need another condition, and num is greater than 0. So that it only stops when it gets to the first index, or stop when the condition is no longer true. Is that understood? Okay, good. So let me take out the condition for num greater than 0. So when I need it, I know the condition I need. Okay, good. So with this, according to this situation, we are trying to compare temp with previous values, isn't it? So this temp has been compared with the first previous value. Is that understood? So it has been compared with the first previous value. Then what do I do? If it is true, we copy the previous value into the, isn't it? So that means it will be array num is equal to array num minus 1. Is this correct? Or array num minus 1 equals to array num. Which one of them is correct? Because I'm trying to have removed this 6 to a temporary variable. Then I want to copy 13 into 6. Is that understood? And 13 is at where? Array num minus 1. Then I'm copying it to what? Array num. That means array num is equal to what? Array num minus 1. Is that understood? Then after doing this, then I reduce num is equal to what? Num minus 1. So that it can go back to the while loop to reduce what? To reduce the index. Is that understood? So that means this will now go to 2 to 1. So the question is, where am I supposed to stop? Is it at num greater than 0 or greater than or equal to 0? Okay, good. We will do that when we test our code. So after this is done, or whether this condition is now false, then we now copy the temporary value into the what? Into the last num value, right? So that means array num is equal to what? Temp. Array num equals to temp. Is this understood, everyone? Okay, so that after everything has been done, once this condition is false, put that value in the last what? Index. And the last index was what? 1. Okay? Then after doing this, what is the next thing? That is all. Then you print what? You print the array. So let's see if this sorts. Did it sort? So let me use greater than or equal to 0. Did this sort? No. Do you understand? So that was why I say you have to use greater than 0. So if you do this, then the array is sorted. Now, if I change this array to a longer one and I make this to be this, so let's see if it works for different types of array, okay? And if you look at it, is it sorted? They are all sorted. So it works for every type of array, no matter what the array is. That is how it works. Okay, this is it. So let's take an example if we want to work with a small array so that it can be fast, okay? Let's say we want to work with, you keep the value into what? Into a temporary location. So that means temp is equal to -1. So let me add a 1. Let me add a 1 to make it more illustrative. So temp is -1. Then I compare what? -1 with what? Array num -1. So that means I'm comparing -1 with what? Array 0, isn't it? Is this true or false? Since it is true, but is num greater than 0? Let me use greater than 0. Is num greater than 0? Num is greater than 0. Are you all following me? Because num is what? Num is still 1, which is still greater than 0. So since num is 1, so this condition is true. It swaps, isn't it? So it copies the previous into the next, isn't it? So that means that what? Array num. What is array num? Array 1. Num is still 1. So that means array 1 is equal to what? Array 0. Is that understood? So let's do that. What will be the array now? Array 1 is equal to array 0. That is 0, 0, 3, 1. Isn't it? Because array 1 is equal to what? Array 0. After doing that, num is now equal to what? So that means num is equal to 0. Now that num is equal to 0, it goes back to the while loop and check, is num greater than 0? No, then it exits the while loop, which means that it is already done with the index. If I want num greater than or equal to 0, since equal to 0 is valid, then what happens? It enters the what? The while loop again, isn't it? Are you guys following me? It enters the while loop. If it enters the while loop, then what happens? It compares what? Temp. What is temp now? Array 0. So temp is equal to what? 0, which is array 0. Are you all following me? It now what? Compare it with what? Array 0 minus 1. So it is comparing temp with what? Array 0, which is what? Array minus 1. And what is array minus 1? The last element. Is that understood? So it is comparing the first element to the last element, instead of comparing the first element to nothing, because that is the end. And that was why it was able to switch this 25 and -2. That is the first and last. That is what it is comparing, which is exactly what he was explaining. Is that understood? So to prevent this, we are supposed to write what? Greater than 0 and not greater than or equal to 0. So that when num is 0, it means that is the end. Don't go back to the while loop. Is that understood? Then get out of the while loop and compare and copy the what? The temporary value into the what? Array num. What is num already? 0. That means array what? Array 0 is equal to what? The temporary. What is the temporary value? -1. So which makes the array now what? -1, 0, 3, 1. So that is the reason. If you use greater than or equal to, it swaps what? The first and the last element. That is the reason. So like I said, if you take a look at this line of code, it's also is okay. This one, it also does the same like I've explained earlier. What would this do? This compares the value before saving that value into the what? Temporary variable. As you have seen here, if this compares the value, save to what? Temporary variable. Now keep comparing until the condition is false. Is that understood? Well, what I did in the previous course was I removed all this. Do you understand? I removed all this and compared, put it in the temporary variable before I compare. So you see the same thing. The one you understand better is the one you should use. Now, since you all understand this, let me give you this question to solve. Hello, everyone. Now, let's solve this exercise problem together after you guys have solved it. So the question states, the procedure read data, yeah, will what? Will prompt the user to input what? 10 integers separated by comma according to the question, isn't it? So that means we write user is equal to input, enter, store each value from the user input into what? An array. And that means if I split, it's already an array, right? So I can write user input, user, right, is equal to user dot split with what? With space. No, is this space or comma? Comma. So is this an array? Yes, this is an array. I don't need to initialize any empty array and copy one by one. I don't need the for loop. That's all. It's already a list. Because when you split, it converts it to a what? To a list. It's as simple as that. But if you want to convert to, if it is compulsory for you to convert to integer, then you can write for num in range of what? Of the length of user, isn't it? That is if it's composing. Is that understood? That's if it's composing. Then you write what? User what? Num is equal to what? Integer what? Num, isn't it? Integer user num. Okay, good. User num. That is, you take each value, convert to integer, and copy it to that same value, isn't it? So there are many ways of doing this. If you want to convert each value to an integer, it's accepted. Okay, good. Or instead of doing this, declare a new list. Let's say array is equal to this, okay, is equal to empty list. And instead of saying user num is this, just write what? Array dot append. Okay, array dot append. Yeah, my computer is kind of slow. Yeah, array dot append. Then what's that? Integer user num. Anyhow you do it, they are all the same and correct. So we are now adding everything to a new array. Now these are integers. Is that understood? So if it's composed to convert to an integer, this is what I have just done. So are we done? Return the what? The array, isn't it? Return the array. Then we write return array. If you did not copy to a new array, you just return what? User, isn't it? Because it's already a list, and that is all. Is it understood, everyone? Okay, good. Now the next question now says the procedure insertion find. So def insertion, take an array and a search value as what? Parameter. So we are taking two parameters, right? So array value. So these two values as parameters, isn't it? Use insertion sort to sort the element of the array in what? In descending order. That is opposite of what we did in the previous class, right? So instead of less than, we use what? Greater than, isn't it? So let's take each of the elements in the array first, isn't it? So we write for num in range of what? Length of array. Okay, good. Not length of array. We have to start from the next index, because if I use length of array, it starts from 0, right? So I need to start from 1. Is that understood? Now, after this, for num, comma. Now the next thing is what? Is to keep it to a what? Temporary variable. So temp is equal to what? Array num. Isn't it? Then we now use the while loop for the comparison, isn't it? Then while temp. Now this time it will not be less, it will be what? Greater. Greater than what? Array num minus 1. And where is our stop? Are we stopping at 0 or stopping at the highest value? And num greater than what? Greater than 0. Is that understood? So if this is true, what happens? We need to rewrite the array, isn't it? And write that array what? Array num is equal to what? Array num minus 1, isn't it? Yeah, array num is equal to array num minus 1. Then after doing it, then we reduce what? The index, which is what? Num is equal to what? Num minus 1, isn't it? Then after doing it, what is the next thing? If the condition is false, then we get out of the while loop and insert the temporary value into the last position, right? Then it becomes what? Array num. Array num is equal to temp. Array num is equal to temp. Because num minus 1, num is now num minus 1, isn't it? Is equal to temp. Is this understood, everyone? Okay, good. Now the next one. The next thing says, if the, then find the search value in the what? In the array. So let's use linear search to find the search value, isn't it? Then I write for num in range of what? Length of array, isn't it? Then I write that if what? If value that we are searching is equal to what? Array num. Then if it's equal, we need to keep the index, isn't it? So to keep the index, I can concatenate all the index as a string because I need to return a string in a suitable message, isn't it? So let me concatenate everything by writing that index is equal to this. I initialize an index as a string outside of the, oh sorry, it should be outside of the for loop, not inside the for loop. So if the value is found, we are asked to return all the indexes of the found value in the array. So return all the indexes. So we can write that index is equal to index plus string of num, then plus. So what does this mean? This means that I concatenated index, which was what? A space. Then this num is a what? Is an integer, isn't it? The num is an integer because num goes from 0 to length of array. Convert it to string and also concatenate with an empty string so that if the value is found, it comes here, compare. If it's compare and it is found, it concatenates what? Each of the index with the new index. It keeps doing that in as much that that item is found. Then after this, then I can write a boolean to be equal to true. Okay. If it is not found, so that means before this, I need to initialize the boolean to false. So that if it is not found, the boolean value remains false. If it is not found, it is always true, in as much that the value is found in the array. So after doing this, then out of the loop, then I write if found. That means if the boolean value becomes true, that is if the value is what? Is found in the array. Then if found, then I print. Okay, print f the search value is found at index at indexes at index. Yeah. I think the variable was index and not indexes. Okay, good. So the value is found at index. I hope this is well understood. So after all this is found is turned to be true. Don't forget that all the index at which this item was found has been concatenated together. So it does write that if found, then it prints the value, the search value, the value you pass as the parameter is found at index, maybe 0, 1, 2, just write everything. Okay. Now else, that is if found is false. Okay. Else, then what do you print? You print not found according to the question. Not return if the search value is not found, return what? Not found. So you print not found. Okay. Now that is all. Is that all? Yes, that is all. Okay. Now question 3. The main program that is which will be out of this function, out of the insert function. Okay. Now the main program will call read data. Read data is called. Okay. After calling read data, prompt the user to input a search value. So we need to prompt the user to input a search. So I write user is equal to input, enter a search value. Now don't forget that the value inputted to be a string. The value inputted will be a string, and when we wrote the code for read data, we actually converted the input to what? To an integer before saving to this array. So if we have done this, converting to integer, that means this input must also be converted to integer. Okay? But if we did not convert to integer, so we don't have to convert this input to integer. So it depends on how we wrote our code. So if at this point, call insertion find. So the question asks us to call insertion find. So let's call insertion find. So that will be insertion and what? And pass the user input and the value returned by read data as parameter. Don't forget that read data will return the value. Remember, so I need to save that value to a variable. So I can now pass that variable as this parameter. Okay, so let's do that now. So when I call read data, it should return a variable. It should return a value. So it is now saved in this variable. Then I will now pass user. No, not yet. Yes. Then I will pass the variable and the value to find, which is now the user as a parameter. So here, the value returned by read data, which is the array, has been saved in variable. The search value is saved in user, and both are passed as parameter according to this question that says call in search find, pass the user input and the value returned by read data function as parameter. Then output the result in a suitable message. Okay. Then the result is now outputted, which is already in the question here. If found, so this is the result in the suitable message. Okay. Oh, I made a mistake. Let's go back. If found, return, not output, return all the index. So I'm not supposed to print, I'm supposed to return in this insertion find. So if you go back here, instead of printing, I'm supposed to return and return. So like I said, so these are supposed to be returned and not prints. So when you return, whatever is returned by this insertion find should now be saved to another variable. Okay. So returned value is equal to. So since you are returning the index and not found, the value is saved in this variable return value. So it is now, according to this question, we now output the results, that is the return value. Okay. So let's output the result, which is now print. Okay, print returned value. So what does this mean? This means when you call insertion find, it either return the search value is found at index this or return not found. So the value is now printed, which is now the end of the code. Now, the next question, test your program with the following inputs in the given order. So when we are done, so let's run this code. So when you run this code, enter the list of 10 integers separated by comma. That will be 10, 25 minus 20 minus 2, 10, 25 minus 2, 0 minus 2, and 50 minus 2, 1, 8. 5, 0 minus 2, 1, 8. Okay. Now, the next is enter the search value. The search value is what? Minus 2. The minus 2. So enter. The search minus 2 is found at index 789. So what I forgot to add in this question is to print sorted array. That was what I forgot to add in this question. So let's print the sorted array. Do you know the array is sorted after this? After this for loop, the array is sorted. So let me print the array here so that I can see the sorted array if it's actually sorted. Then I can re-enter the input again, okay? So let's do that again. So enter a list of 10 integers by comma. Search value is minus 2. So can you see that the array is sorted in the descending order? So 25, 10, 8, according to what I explained. And the search value minus 2 is found at index 789, according to what. So this takes us to the end of this question. I hope this is well understood. So if you have any question, please ask. Thank you.